This is Lee Rosenbaum, and we're at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, the old and the new. This is Renzo Piano's addition, controversial in some ways, to the old, venerable, and beloved Gardner Museum. It had a lot of requirements to meet. For one thing, it couldn't cast too much in the way of shadows on this park across the street. It had to be lower. They wanted it to be lower than the original Gardner. And they wanted to get LEED gold. So we'll see some of the features that will perhaps expedite that designation. It's floating on a glass first floor, glass entranceway. And these plantings will presumably blossom in the spring. And speaking of plantings, half of the facade is actually a greenhouse. As you know, the courtyard of the Gardner, which we'll see a little later on, is renowned for all its plantings. And there's a whole greenhouse cultivating plants for the Gardner and elsewhere, right over there. And above the greenhouse, if you can see the little openings in the glass, those are artists' apartments. The idea was to grow things below and to grow art above. There are artists in residence at the Gardner, and that's what they inhabit. In that green patinated copper building up there on the right is a space for exhibition. On the left is an administrative center, and behind is a concert hall and a conservation area. So they're going for the LEED Gold certification, and right here is the location of a geothermal well. It goes down 1,500 feet. I learned this, by the way, from Jim Lubick, who's the project director here. It goes down, if they're cooling the building in the summer, the hot water goes down after they've cooled with the water. The hot water goes down here and loses some of its heat from the rock, from the natural rock below. Those of you who are engineers understand this better than I do, but it's part of the effort to conserve energy. That green strip right below the canopy is for shades in the morning to keep some of that bright eastern sunlight out. And they're always harvesting light, as they say. They don't have to use as much in the way of artificial illumination because they have so much natural light. So now let's go in and take a little bit of a tour. And here's a view of the interior of that greenhouse. There's that glass facade that we saw from the outside. And here are the plants under cultivation.
We began planning over a decade ago, as Barbara indicated, and we had no idea that we were going to be arriving here today. It was a journey without a map. We just knew we had to analyze the overuse of the historic building and what to do with our programs that were at that time being done in the basement of the palace in tiny little spaces throughout. So we have also struggled, as Barbara indicated, with the idea here that Gardner's work was a total work of art, and how could anything stand next to that work and honor it and be a companion with it without also aspiring to that kind of being. And I think that Renzo has really given us another work of art. And this room offers you a glimpse, and for some of your first glimpse, of the virtuosity of Renzo Piano's design, and in the case of the music hall, Renzo working with Yasu Toyota, who is sitting over here, to make what we think is one of the most extraordinary music halls in the world. And I hope you will all come back soon to a concert to hear the amazing sound. This new wing is an extraordinarily elegant workshop. It is a bustling counterpoint to the museum's sensuous serenity. Here the thinking and the work of the museum is performed so that the palace, which had been put to uses for which it was not equipped, could be returned to its original function as an undiluted source of pleasure in art.
I mean, what you see is what you've done. So you should just enjoy, you should go around. It was not an easy job. It was not an easy job because, you know, because we have the palace, because we have this lady flying around. Today is a perfect time, perfect day. If you go around in the building, if you walk up and down the stair, if you go through the link, the glass link to the palace and come back, just enjoy, just go around. And you feel what I'm trying to say. It's light. It's almost impressionistic. Can you say that? Impressionistic? Yeah. It's like that. And in the sunny day, but even in the cloudy day, believe me, it's playing, flirting with light. Everything is about that. And transparency. You will realize that once you are moving in the new building, you always look at the palace. The palace is constantly the object of desire.
And this is the Renzo Piano's version of the grand staircase for this new building of the Gardner. And we get a good view here of the glassed-in corridor between the new and the old. And now we're down at the corridor, the glassed-in corridor that connects the new Renzo Piano building to the original Gardner facade that you can see.
It's a historic building, and then we'll come back to see the cafe.
And there's the staircase.
Stop in the courtyard first, but as
And now we'll join the scribe tribe as we troop through the glass corridor from new to old.
What? Let's get really tired. Kind of like a lot of visual sensory, but it's good to sit down.
And you really get a sense of being plunged into Stygian darkness after the light-filled piano building. Here we are at the familiar courtyard.
that's where we were. Yep.
I haven't been here for a while. It is stunning.
No, because every time I come here, there's a different courtyard display.
So if we could move in this way, a little bit this way, because I want to introduce you to a couple other staff. But so this is, if you've been here before, you may have noticed that we just came through what was a solid wall in the past. So the two buildings connect here at the end of the east cloister, sort of help, giving visitors the idea that they're still kind of moving from a modern structure. Previously people moved from the exterior and were catapulted into the courtyard. Now you've gotten rid of your coat and done all of those kinds of things here, and you still have that sort of dramatic experience of coming into the courtyard, which is a favorite feature of the museum.
Right.
And I would like to talk a little bit about the function of the Tapestry Room and about its history. And in order to give you a little orientation, first is when you look south here, you see the new building, and you see there the green wall. That is actually the music hall, where Enhordi and Renzo Piano just gave their introductory remarks. And that music hall actually gave this room the opportunity in order to reinstall to its original function. Because in the past, this room was used as a music and lecture hall. You have to imagine that there was a huge stage where I'm standing here, and in front of that stage were a lot of chairs. So the character of that room was, since at least from the very early 70s on, was very, very much changed and distorted. So what we did in this campaign was that we removed these objects, and that on the basis of historic photographs, we tried to recreate that original room. And in order to do so, we did a lot of conservation projects, such as the cleaning of the tiles, which are much brighter now than they were. We conserved a lot of furniture, like these 6 leather chairs that you see there. and also the Madonna, which you see over there. And then, most importantly for the impact of the room, we changed the lighting. From Flanders, they're from Brussels, from around 1550, and which was back then the center of tapestry production in Europe. These are two different sets of tapestries. Each consists of 5 tapestries. One is telling the religious story of Abraham, and the other is telling us the historic story of Cyrus the Great, king of Persia. And you would think that by creating this room, which somehow alludes to the type of great hall and having these tapestries, Isabella Gardner would have arranged the tapestries in a similar way how Europeans used to do it. But if you look carefully, you will see that these tapestries are totally mixed up. So normally tapestries are hung in a narrative, coherent way, telling a story from the beginning up to its end. And if you try to do it here, you will become very soon confused.
The tapestries have been worked on over the years. They were, as Oliver mentioned, they were rehung according to Mrs. Gardner's original as a part of this project. They were not worked on as a part of this particular project.
And you can maybe imagine that having these tapestries hung here permanently since the time when Isabella, since the tapestry room was built up, so since 1914. Is a huge concern for us. Right. Because normally you should hang tapestries for a span of say 10 years, and then they should rest for another 10 or even longer years. That has never been done here to these tapestries. So we are forced to think about it. We have a conservation plan. We hope to restore the most damaged tapestries. And we will work out a plan which allows us to circulate these plants, these tapestries. So some tapestries will rest in the future, and others will be on view.
And what's the nature of the damage that needs to be addressed? What specifically has?
You know, you have these threads, and the longer these tapestries hang vertically, the threads are pulled down by gravitation, and so very often the upmost level of tapestries is damaged most, because that's where most of the weight of the whole tapestry is waiting.
And now, before we leave, let's go visit Calderwood Hall and hear the chamber group, the resident group of Far Cry, doing some rehearsing in the new concert hall. Let's see how it sounds.